Yeah, I don't think we've actually met in person. Beautiful emails. Also, you come in and meet your team. You were there.
I don't know why they do that.
Well, I did. Maybe it's Ed was trying to get.
Yeah.
No.
You come to the office.
I am.
Yeah. So you probably you probably met Danny.
Hello, Raquel, come in and grab a seat.
I've heard good things about like the targeting capabilities.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Who do you work for?
Swinging advertising.
Yes, go.
Helen?
Hello, nice to
Helen,
meet you.
this is Leslie.
I think we've met before, Leslie. We've met before. We have. We definitely have. There was an IMAA. There was an IMAA night that we sponsored down at La Mer, down at the Crown. And I remember talking to you that night. You'd like a great, I don't know, jacket or a coat or something on you. I can't remember, but I remember it. That would have been it.
I get a lot of compliments about it, and I like it because it sheds. So every time I'm in the car with him, there's like pink feathers everywhere.
Does your husband work at Sweeney as well? He does, yes.
It's on a with Danny.
I guess we're getting huge.
He was on
I was listening.
couple of other people, so they're she's
Very, very welcome. It's lovely to have you here.
Yeah.
Look at
I hope you find it interesting.
Shall we show you today?
You don't tell us.
It was a terrible waste of time at best I forgot.
You're going to be freaking. That's the reason to come versus to dial in.
And the targeting, like, we won't go into specifics today on that, but like, we can help you with all of that.
It'd be good to get some intel and background on that.
Yeah, easy.
Just for.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon now. Thank you to coming to a very, very special Insights and Innovation series. We're still letting people in. But thank you very much for coming to this special day here at LinkedIn with our great partners. We're going to shortly hear from Jenny, Catherine Flynn, and the wonderful Helen, who's going to talk us through thought leadership and how to sway B2B buying groups. So we're very excited about that. Before we jump into that, just a couple of quick updates for you all. Thank you to all the agencies who participated in Clean Up Australia Day. That was an amazing day, 300 plus people around the country and the largest sustainable activation in the industry. So super excited about seeing that come together. As we know, Cans in Cans, or the Cans Crocodiles, is coming up in the next few months. Make sure you're there for the cocktail party at 3 o'clock on the Monday. And then also on the Wednesday, we're going to do a walk and talk around the bay at 8:30. So you'll see an invitation coming to that shortly. Other events that are coming up, we've got the Perth networking event. That's happening in the 10th of April over in Perth. So we've got some thought leadership panels there and also some networking on that night. You'll certainly see an invitation to a leadership series on how to grow your agency. And we're working on bringing that together sometime in May and June, working with our good friends at LinkedIn as well on actually bringing that to life. So you'll hear more about that shortly. And two other final pieces is we're off to the Northern Territory. There's a couple of tickets available for the senior leadership team for that. So a lot of you would have seen an update for that, and you'll get a personal invitation for that shortly. And the final thing is Pitchchella, which is happening again. You'll see invitations coming in that in about 3 to 4 weeks. And that's for your young teams to get involved with practicing and learning the fine art of living a mental life. So microphones off. Without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the amazing Jenny, who's going to take things over. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to everyone who's joining us here in the LinkedIn office, but also I'd like to thank everyone who's joining us virtually. But before we start the presentation, I wanted to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we're meeting on today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. I want to pay my respect to their elders, past and present, and extend my respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people with us today. Sorry. So in the next 40 minutes, we're going to take you through a journey, how the B2B market and landscape is evolving. And, it's about your clients. It's about the go-to-market to your clients. But I really want to plant a seed here it's also about you as an agency. You are a B2B market, and that's going to give you a lot of interesting insight on how you make your business grow, better known, and how you find new clients as well. So there's a couple of lenses here for your clients and for yourself as well. And now I'm going to hand over to Catherine Flynn. She's our APAC director for agency development and marketing education. And she's joining us for a few days in Sydney. So we thought it was a great opportunity to have her with us today. Thank you, Catherine.
Good morning, everybody.
Quick questions. So sorry to interrupt, Catherine. Jenny, can they hear us on the screen without a microphone?
Yeah, the microphone is, there are two big microphones around the room.
Okay, fine.
Two giant
Sorry,
microphones.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Sorry, Catherine.
Lovely to be with you all here in Singapore. Came from Singapore yesterday. I'm not quite transferred to Sydney. So bear with me. I have had 2 coffees, but maybe one more is needed. So I'm going to talk a little bit just to set all of this up about what we call our economic graph at LinkedIn. And I recommend you follow on LinkedIn at LinkedIn Economic Graph, because LinkedIn is now over 1.1 billion members. I think almost 20 million of those are in Australia. Is that right, Jenny? Am I rounding up a bit?
Yeah. No.
No. Okay, great. Almost 20 million of whom are in Australia. So we're the largest community of professionals on the planet. What that gives us, and what we mean when we talk about our economic graph, is all of those people, all of those connections, all of the companies that we all work for have presences on LinkedIn, universities, hiring that goes on. It just gives us so much ability to analyze what's going on in the world, in the global economy, in our local economies. That's all available to all of you to access, be it when you're planning campaigns or just when you follow some of the research that we do, or when you're hiring. In fact, you get a lot of access to this. And from that, we really understand our members. Hopefully all of you are our members, but we know your jobs, your skills, your experiences, your connections, your aspirations as a professional, and what expertise that you have. And we use that to connect our members to opportunity every single day. And advertising is a big part of this. Marketing is a big part of this, as well as recruiting that we're more recruiting that we're more. So what that means is, from a platform that was primarily known, certainly when I started using LinkedIn many years ago, as a job-seeking platform, we're now the default platform for professional knowledge. Members come, hopefully all of you come to LinkedIn to be informed, to be inspired, and to learn. So even now, if we're really happy in our jobs, I used to be afraid that my boss, when I worked in agencies, would see that I was on LinkedIn. Now, people are getting promoted for, building their expertise on LinkedIn and finding new business on LinkedIn. So it's really changed a lot. Knowledge is being shared, and you can see some examples here all of the time on LinkedIn by experts, companies, thought leaders and publishers, even celebrities, people like Billy Idol, that you can now follow on LinkedIn. Snoop Dogg has been doing a lot on LinkedIn. So, there was even a headline recently saying LinkedIn is cool now. And of course, we don't set out to be cool. We set out to be, trusted, but it's obviously great if you're a bit more in the zeitgeist. There's something to take notice of. Increasingly, and if I didn't let you all leave this morning without telling you this, video is booming on LinkedIn. So this knowledge, and we're always going to still make LinkedIn a place for the written posts that we all know LinkedIn for, and hopefully, love LinkedIn for, and photos and all of that. But, we are seeing a huge organic growth in video that we are now catching up on at LinkedIn. So it's the fastest growing format that we have. 40% increase in video uploaded to LinkedIn over the last year. And that's actually, initially not incentivized by us. It was just something that we could see increasing. Our CEO, Ryan, for a long time said he did not want to make LinkedIn a video platform because he was afraid it would, sort of change it in a way that our members wouldn't like. But then when the members themselves are driving this increase, we have had to follow suit. 40% also increase in video creation by CEOs and C-suite. This is huge. It means that CEOs are using LinkedIn to break company news in a way that they might have used other platforms in the past, or, press in the past. We are working actively with CEOs around the world to help make LinkedIn a platform where they can often communicate to even their own employees, depending on how great or not their internal tools are. And then video engagement overall, this is the one to take note of, both for yourselves, your agencies and your clients, is 14 times higher than other formats. So there is a huge first mover advantage to be had if you're using video on LinkedIn, because that content, that format is getting a lot more distribution today organically than the written form or other forms, because it's new and people are taking notice of video. So there's many reasons why LinkedIn has become this destination for professional content. But the fundamental one that we take the most pride in is that we are a very trusted platform. So we are repeatedly cited in research, in surveys, be it from B2B marketers or individual members, as the most trusted social platform, the most trusted platform by members and companies globally. We take this really, really seriously. And this is something that no matter how big the opportunity to go fast after a new ad format or a new monetization opportunity is, if there is any risk to member trust, we don't do it, or we approach it very cautiously. And that's what we're doing right now with video, making sure that it's going to work well for members and all of us. The other thing we see through our economic graph is what skills are most in demand in the economy today. So when all of us as members have the ability to update our skills on our profile. One nugget I discovered in the last few weeks around International Women's Day, something that came out of our economic graph team, was that women are much less likely than men to put AI as a skill on their profile. This is not to do with this slide, but just something I feel passionately about given the month that's in it. Even though women may be as competent or as, using or trying out AI tools as much as men, we just as women don't feel like, I can't really say I'm competent in it because maybe I don't know everything about it. But if you are using Gen AI tools, you are, in that kind of first mover space, please put it on your LinkedIn profile because these skills are surely in demand. But actually, even though, we're in a hugely transformational time driven by AI, adaptability, a very human skill, is the fastest growing skill in demand from hiring managers around the world this year. So being able to adapt and embrace change, something you are all brilliant at, as people who work at independent agencies and people who help clients adapt to change every single day, is really key for organizations and individuals. This is a time where, alongside technology, relationships and human-centric skills are most critical for success. So never forget that in the move towards ongoing technological transformation. And as a result, this is also a time when B2B marketers, the marketers in the marketing ecosystem that we know best at LinkedIn, must think differently. So moving on to them a little bit and what we're learning about them. So because we have over 60 million companies on our platform, companies who've set up pages, we know the needs of small businesses to large enterprises. We know their hiring needs, their sales and marketing needs. Apart from LinkedIn, LinkedIn's talent solutions, our sales solutions and our marketing solutions are the other two biggest areas of our business. So the interplay between sales and marketing is something we know very well. Unfortunately, we have all known for a long time that B2B buying cycles are much longer generally than consumer buying cycles. They are not getting any shorter. Technology is actually making them longer because there are more places and more ways for brands to engage with their buyers. And so the B2B buying cycle can actually be up to 2 years. I recently heard at our own company of a deal that was done after 2 years. The sales team had pretty much given up, but finally the company was in the market for a new solution, and they went with LinkedIn at that point. So, in research that I read recently from this market says 300 and something days. So anybody who is trying to measure and attribute B2B within a 1 month window is very divorced from the length of the sales cycle. So they've got these long and complex buying cycles with multiple touch points, only growing longer. People are now using messaging and ChatGPT to help them with their B2B buying research. They've got the pressure of balancing long and short-term outcomes is getting even bigger for B2B marketers. B2B CMOs have an even higher burden of proof to prove to their organizations today. And then finally, sounds all very bad news, but I promise we have ways to help. We've all known in B2B that, this concept of the buying committee. So the key difference between business to consumer marketing and business to business marketing is that generally in B2C, you're trying to convince one person, me, to hit buy something from Instagram that turns up on my doorstep a week later, pretty much every week. Or get, 10 or more people in a buying committee to agree. That's not an easy thing to do. And it's another reason the B2B buying cycle is longer. So traditionally called the buying committee, we call it at LinkedIn the buyer group. It's changing a lot. Kels is going to tell you a lot more about that soon. But all research is telling us now that that can include up to 20 people. So even if you've got one champion who wants to buy your product, they have to help, and you have to help them convince maybe another 19 people. So a thought to leave you with is that we believe as B2B marketers, we are all now in the business of influence. As agency leaders, we're all in the business of influence. Deeply knowing our customers, leveraging technology and first-party data. I will proudly boast that LinkedIn's first-party data is some of the best that is out there due to everything I've told you about our economic graph. So at a time when influencing a single decision maker is definitely no longer viable, we want to help marketers leverage their first-party data with ours to succeed in this time of extreme complexity and change. So how are they going to do that? How are you going to do that? I'm going to pass you over to Helen Girdlestone, who's going to take you through some of the key insights we've recently released around the buyer group and how that's evolved.
Thank you very much. I did feel a little bit like hemmed in.
Right,
Might do want to
stand out here. That's okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming into the LinkedIn offices. I will apologize for the drilling that's going on downstairs. You may have noticed. I actually thought it was upstairs, but apparently the company downstairs is doing a wee bit of work. So I'm really sorry about that. But I'm going to take about 10 minutes to just walk you through some of the most recent research we've done into the buyer group. I'm going to start with what the theory is telling us and what we've seen from that report. And then Jenny is going to talk you through ways in which you can actually action upon it. So any questions, don't be afraid to stick your hand up and ask. But why do we do this research? It's called the power of buyer group marketing. Well, we did this research. We partnered with Bain and the B2B Institute. If you're not aware of the LinkedIn B2B Institute, that is our research faculty within LinkedIn, and they specialize in everything B2B research. It's absolutely fantastic and a brilliant resource for you to have. Everything from category entry points to marketing to the CFO or how to speak to the CMO. Really, really good research in there. So this was their latest. I wouldn't say it's hot, steaming off the press, that it will burn you, but it is very, very recent. And you may have heard us talk about it in the market over the last couple of months. But what I'm finding about this research is that it is giving customers and agencies a bit of an aha moment, because we know that B2B buying is very, very complex, right? We know there are so many stakeholders. Catherine's just told us about that. How do we go about simplifying it, and how do we understand, okay, we know the purchase cycle is long, we understand that, but why and what happens within it? Like, what is going on there with that buyer group? So I'm going to walk you through that. I'm going over it top line. We will send the research to you afterwards, but by all means ask any questions. But this is the group of people that we looked at when we pulled this research together. So we had about 515 respondents from B2B. They were B2B tech buyers looking after about $10 billion worth of total purchases across 16 industries, very senior audience, over 50% of VP or above, and largely from US and Western Europe. But this is a very Western market, so we sort of do feel a lot of affinity with what has been produced through this research. So let's take a look at what we found. So what we actually tasked when we built this research out was that we wanted to look deeper into the buyer group. We knew there was a buying committee, but we had a feeling that we didn't know it all. So we segmented it into target buyers and hidden buyers, and those 515 respondents were able to self-select what they were, whether they were target or hidden. Now, when we talk about target buyers, we are talking about the product experts. So when Catherine mentioned about that one person who would be the champion for your brand in and amongst 20 other people, she wasn't wrong. But quite often B2B marketers will only go for this target buyer. Think about an IT decision maker. You think if you get to the IT decision maker, that's it. That's most of the hard work done. Unfortunately, it's not quite. You're on the way, but it's not quite. So if you look at all the different job functions and job titles that we have at LinkedIn, when you associate them with the target buyers, very product heavy, okay? And then you look at the hidden buyers. Hidden buyers are much more about the purchase process, and that's what we're going to focus on today, right? They don't know the product. That's someone else's job. They're happy to not be involved in that piece. They're expecting other people to do their jobs there. But they are
very concerned about mitigating risk. And it's all about compliance, it's all about legal, it's all about procurement. That is their job, to make sure that they protect that company from making a mistake. So you'll see again with those job functions, very self-explanatory, but it's much more ops, much more legal, much more general counsel. So keep that in mind as we go through. And then when we look at the different priorities that they have, and we talk about these hidden and these target and these hidden buyers, you can see that what drives or prioritizes a buy for a target buyer, what you would think it would be, right? All about the product. Advanced features, provides innovation and opportunity. These are the ones you want to get the webinars to. You want the white papers to. You want them to download that PDF or that document from the document ad. But here, interestingly, you'll see that they do like it to be reliable and dependable. That's where they come together, probably the closest in terms of that buying cycle. And then you look at the hidden buyers, and you can see that it's much more subjective about what they want. They want it to be reliable. They want it to be less risky. They want it to do what it says on the tin, and they want it to be able to deliver results for the company. These guys do as well, but they're just more into the features and into the mechanics and possibilities of what it can do. So you can see here really, really clearly that those priorities are different. So I'm going to go through 7 headlines that we pulled from this research. Now, I'm only doing this in 15 minutes, so there's much, much more underneath this. But for the purposes of today, we hope that this insight we're bringing you will help you to innovate the way in which you talk to B2B marketers for strategies moving forward, or as your own agency, how you approach it in yourself, as you are all B2B businesses in your own rights. So let's look at the first one. Okay, first thing that came out was both hidden and target buyers will only buy brands that the rest of the buyer group already knows. If your brand is not known by the entire buyer group, which is both of those together, from day one, you have automatically made your job extremely hard. We can see here from the 4%, the wee tiny bit at the bottom, that only the recommending function knew the brand. Those sales were only 4% of those people were able to push the sale through to the end, right? So you need 81% of that group to agree before that purchase can be made. And they are telling you that, well, we knew it from day one, so it was much easier. Everyone knew the brand, felt less risky already. The second finding that came out of it was that all things being equal, when we tried to look at like sort of what the trade-offs were for how we could get these two groups to agree, if all things were equal, pricing, product, the less well-known vendor would be rejected, right? 62% agreed that faced with 2 vendors with exactly the same products at similar prices, I would reject the less known vendor because it's just felt like it's more risky. And that takes us in to number 3, where we looked more at price. And we were really, really surprised to find that buyers, in order to get their colleagues to agree, would be much happier to pay more for a product than a product that was equitable and cost less money. So a better known, more expensive product was easier to agree on than a less well-known, cheaper one. So you can see a theme emerging, you can see a battleground emerging here, that it's not so much, the quality of the product, of course, is important, but what they need to find is a way to have both the hidden and the target buyers so they have permission to agree. Because you cannot get the sale through, or at least it's very, very hard if you've got one person heroing it from product. It just won't happen. Not enough people know about that brand and they're not willing to take the risk on it. So how do we give them permission to agree? Well, we will go through this and hopefully it will become a bit clearer. But number 4, this is what we found. Only a minority will fight for products that the group don't know, even if the product is better. So not as many people are willing to hang their hat on it as maybe what they were before. A less well-known product was probably better, but it would have been too hard to persuade my colleagues to choose it. Too hard basket sometimes is the path to least resistance. And so even if they know it's a better product, but it's going to take them much, much longer to push that through, they will set that to aside for a product that will make do, because they will get the buyer group to agree on it much more readily and push it through faster. Okay, number 5. I found this particularly interesting. So who has the influence or the most influence when it comes to making those purchases? These are big purchases, right? 515 tech people who look after $10 billion worth of tech purchases. The decision-making influence is equal. The hidden buyer has every bit as much say, so slightly less, than the target buyer, but it's pretty close. So if you are a B2B marketer and your strategy is 90% hitting the target buyer, then 50% of who you need to speak to is not happening. It's not happening, and you're missing that very, very large chunk of people that you need to start building visibility with. But it is really interesting because quite often these hidden buyers are ignored in those broader strategies. But that's why I think people are having this aha moment with this research, because they're like, makes sense. Okay, how do I figure out these hidden buyers? Number 6, hidden buyers will reject more than half of shortlisted vendors, right? So 49% of shortlisted vendors get through, just 49% got through past the hidden buyers. So if they don't know you, you will not even make it to the evaluation stage. It's just too hard basket. They don't have time. They don't know you. They will move on. So brand building is absolutely imperative. And that takes us through to the very last one. And I find this research really quite validating, because at LinkedIn, we have been singing this from the rooftops for about 6 years. That brand is so, so important, and you cannot neglect it, because if you want to fill a funnel and have the demand in the future, you just simply cannot neglect it. You will run out of demand. It's not infinite. And so building brand with hidden buyers is even more important than with target buyers. So we knew it was important, but it's even more important with those hidden buyers and how you speak to them, because as I've talked through over the last 5 or 6 different points, if they don't know you, it's nearly twice as hard to actually get pushed through into the next stage of validation. So investing in visibility is going to be key. And we know that brand is going to matter far more than what we actually thought it did. And that's why this research is definitely landing with a lot of our clients. It will deliver you that full funnel deal closing lever if you use it in the right way and you talk to those different parts of the buyer group in the right way along the way. Ignore it at your peril, because it's complex, but if you simplify it down and think about how you can speak to both of those groups, it does feel like a more manageable task. Now, quite often big brands will have the money to do big brand budget things. Think of the F1. Think about Atlassian that just partnered with the F1. Think about Super Bowl ads. Those big brands have the budgets where they can just buy those moments. They can buy that credibility. But if you're a much smaller brand and you don't have those big budgets, you have to find a way to put in place a B2B marketing strategy that will talk to both of those groups, so that you can bridge that gap of credibility in a much more affordable way for your brand. Now, that brings me to Jenny. Jenny is going to talk to you about how you can start to think about this and to unscramble that egg of where do I start? Okay, thanks guys.
Right, so that's quite confronting, right? Half of the people that have the power of decision, we may not have been engaging with them. And it's your client as B2B advertisers, but it's also us media agency when talking to their clients. So what does that mean? Well, there's 3 key takeaways for us. Is that the hidden buyers play a huge role into the B2B sales, and it's very important to understand how are we going to reach them, because we need to target them as much as we need to target the target audience. The marketing communication need to address a broader group. So we need to be able to target a wider group and not just the target audience. And also, most importantly, we need to give that buying committee, so the target committee, but the hidden committee, the permission to say yes when it comes to make a decision into a B2B buy. And it's not a massive surprise, but that requires a bit of a mindset shift, and that's why we want to take you through this. So Hales mentioned brand, and actually this is one of my favorite charts, because it's a really, really good reminder of what really drives profitability when it comes to advertising. And as you can see, the first one is brand size and share. So that's the power of being famous. So, we were talking about big brands earlier, but because they have big budget, but you don't need big budget to be known and to become famous, and we want to help you with that. And the second one is, creativity. Creativity is, how you tell a story, how you create emotion with the audience. And that's really important because that makes you unforgettable. So, and as you can see in that chart, the thing we tend to focus on more often, like budget settings, target audience, it's actually what comes last. Really, your brand, your reach, your creativity is really important. And it's not about being everywhere. It's about being unforgettable where it matters. And if you want to drive impact, it's all about creativity and reach. And how can you do that? So from a LinkedIn perspective, we've seen that human-led content is very important in the age of AI. And I don't know about you, but personally, every time I understand or I see that AI generated content, I'm going to walk away from it. I don't want to engage with it. I want something that's credible, human, and you don't get this with AI. So making sure we create our own content and not generating content is very, very important. Being authentic, and that comes with being human-led content. If you're using AI, you're not going to be authentic to yourself. So, AI is a great tool to help you leverage your authentic self, but it really has to come from you. And the third point, it's about, leveraging your network. So when you think about your LinkedIn page as an agency, for example, the addition of your employees, their reach is much bigger than your actual brand or your actual page. So making sure you involve your everyone, key speakers in your agencies, your leaders in your agencies, your employees in the agency is very important because they're going to bring you way more reach than your page. So it's something that, really matters. And I was talking about using your employees or your key speakers. It's about using human people, real people in what you're going to create on LinkedIn, but not necessarily just on LinkedIn. But if you're going to create a post and involve your employees, you're going to have way more reach and way more impact because people want to hear about people. And that leads me for a side note to one of our products, which is the thought leader ads, thought leadership ads. So it's a format that let you amplify the voice of your leaders, the voice of your employees, but also just recently you can leverage the voice of your customers. So if someone is talking about your brand or your agency in a very positive note, you can actually today sponsor those message. And as I said, people want to hear about people. We trust people. If you want to make, and even in a personal way, if today you need to make a big decision, I think having someone tell you that's a reliable company, it's something that you're going to trust more than anything else. So yeah. So very important, the thought leader ad. Think about the thought leader ads as the influencer ads in other platforms, but for B2B. So yes, so you're going to say, what does a good strategy look like on LinkedIn? I've got a few examples I want to show you of companies that have done it pretty well. And I'm going to start with a brilliant example from Google, who's bringing the whole buying committee together with a story that really sticks and that was amplified by employees, by partners, by customers. I can't see anyone online's hands, but anyone in the room who's seen these ads. Yeah, it was. I think it was a lot on LinkedIn, and I think it was really well done. I'm just going to play that.
The market, and that was the beginning of bold and beautiful. I'd heard of Google Ads, but I thought this will be too techy for me. I was wronger than a wronger. It's actually got just 3 basic steps. That's half the steps the Macarena has, and I nailed that. So now I tell all my fellow entrepreneurs, head to Google and Google ads. Because if I can do it, you can too.
So here you got local humor, you've got storytelling, you got an influencer, and you know it was mixed seamlessly. There was a paid and organic strategy with this campaign. And you know, Shannon, I'm not going to say her last name because I can't pronounce it. Sharon S. Sorry, Sharon S. She's not only a familiar face, but you know, she brings everyone together. She brings the whole buying committee together. And actually, that was a very successful campaign on LinkedIn. So not only you know, the company was posting about it, but the employees were reposting about it. You have a senior content lead manager here. They contacted him with you know, a new profile picture. He updated his profile LinkedIn. Made a post about it. Can you imagine the reach that you're getting? And oh yes, it's Sharon, but you know, we can all do that. And another great example, it's what BHP is constantly doing on LinkedIn. So, you know, we have trending report on LinkedIn, and every month they show up because they're doing something really, really good. They are engaging their employees. They're giving the mic to their employees. And, you know, every time they do that, they have great engagement on their campaign. And there was a few examples here. There was a gender reveal and a wedding at the mine. That was one of their most popular. Yeah, a lot of you remember them. But that's, you know, that's not a huge production. And that's how you make it famous. Mic off, please.
Microphones off.
Yeah. But yeah, here BH, they're letting people lead the way. And that's something we can all do. We can all do this. Another example is from NAB. So they always give the microphone to the employees as well. They allow the expert to talk about the product rather than having their brand talking about the product. And, you know, we're talking financial products here. So that makes it more relatable. And, you know, people want to hear about people. I said that many times, but it's true. So, you know, just to wrap up today's presentation, there's a few key takeaways I want to leave with you, and we will be sharing that presentation with everyone. But think bigger, because the B2B buyer group is big. It's more than the target audience. It's the hidden buyer group as well. And remember, they have 50% as much power than the target audience. Be known. Choose to be famous. So think about your brand, think how you're communicating about your brand, and make sure you use the power you've got within your company, your employees, your key expert. Their reach is much bigger than the company you have. And you can tell that to your clients as well. Brand. Brand is important. If people don't know you, they're not going to buy you. And I think that goes for media agencies as well. And as indie agency, you know, we have a lot to, you know, there's big agencies that have a big brand. And that's why we need to be great at talking about our brand, talking about what we do, our products. Very important. Creativity and execution, very important. You don't have to have billion-dollar budget to be creative, and that's where I think independent agency are always great. Is, you know, you think more creative, and you have this power. So don't forget about it, and lead with humanity. So, you know, human-led content is what's going to make the difference. So before we wrap up, I just want to give you a quick teaser of what's coming next with the IMAA. today we've been looking at, how to influence the hidden buyers and how to build a brand externally. But, what we want to do is really flick the lens inward and help you build your brand. So, build 3 very important blocks on LinkedIn. It's like get to build your brand, who you are, who you stand for, align, match what you say with what you want to show up with and what you want to be famous for. And then bring your brand to life every day with the strategy on how to publish on LinkedIn. So that's part of the thought leadership series Sam is launching. And Helen and I will be doing a workshop. We want to make it as interactive as possible, give you some example, and give you some feedback as well while we do the session. So that will be our next session in May. We're yet to set the date with Sam, but yes, this is coming up. And now I just want to see if you've got any questions. We are almost right on time. So, any question online? You need to get off your mic if you have, because I can't see the messenger. No.
I have one.
Yes, of course.
I wanted to ask about kind of like marketing to hidden buyers, because that resonates as well. We tend to normally try to target, buyers and influencers when doing B2B marketing. So I guess that's kind of relevant in that capacity. You also mentioned kind of like probably weighting the spend 50-50 towards those influencers as far as the community is concerned. As far as, kind of who you should market towards in that respect, I was kind of curious, like we talked about it a little bit about process experts. Are we talking about kind of people who are like, kind of doing the job day to day that would require the, if we're talking about like a software as a service or something like that, the people who would actually be using it day to day, is that the kind of person we'd be talking about?
Yeah, definitely. People that are going to use the product are important in the final decision. Often they consult, like you're thinking SS product, like enterprise resource planning products, like the end users are being consulted in the process. When the business is starting to look for a new ERP, there's a working group, and those working group usually include the sales team, people are going to use the product, and the marketing team as well. So the end user, definitely. What we saw, it's for high value tech. The research we saw is for high value tech buyers. So you saw there was different job titles within that, but we can help you if you have, a different target, different vertical you're looking at. We can help you try to understand who's the hidden buyer. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, something else to add there as well is hidden buyers, regardless of industry, tends to be a lot about legal, procurement, and compliance personnel. So you might be targeting the CMO if you've got a MarTech platform, or the CIO if it's tech, or the CHRO, but the legal, compliance, and procurement, not heavily targeted. So on LinkedIn, we see you might get the most expensive CPMs for these C-level titles, but actually, have you thought about targeting like the procurement experts? Do they have an industry body? Could you do something with them? So it's all about, as Hel said earlier, it's removing risk. So this is where in your funnel, case studies are extremely important. Certifications are really important. So one thing we know now in B2B marketing is like people don't want to just hear, case studies and product information all the time, but hidden buyers need that information. So is your website or your client's website really up to date with case studies? Because these are all ways to target that sort of like risk management. And usually the hidden buyers are passive. They're not showing up to your events. They're not downloading your white papers. They're just going to the website at a time that suits them. One of the stats I love the most about B2B marketing today is over 50% of B2B buyers today are under the age of 35. So they are not wearing suits sitting around a boardroom table coming to your pitch meetings. They are at home. They're probably on TikTok, they're on LinkedIn, thankfully now, but you have to think about those passive buyers. So I would say those sort of categories, regardless of industry, tend to make up that hidden buyer group.
And I would just add to that, good exploration with your client around who they know to be like,
Who blocks the deals?
who blocks it? Where does it
That's
get
really the
stuck
question.
when they talk to their sales, and where does it actually get stuck? Because that will help you map out what that targeting should be.
That's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does LinkedIn have any data or insights around best practices for market outreach? Because this is great, but it's kind of like one part of the funnel. What do you have any insights or data on how to initiate that conversation with your targets in the first place? Is there any sort of data or insights around that?
Yep. Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And we can do things like hop onto the platform and you take a subject, for example, it might be SaaS or cloud computing. You can get on there straight away and just see what people are talking about.
Right.
And then understand by segmenting, well, who are the groups that are actually looking at this content? What kind of job functions, profiles, job titles do they have? You can just map it back from there, but it's an ongoing process because you won't get it all right the first time. But then when you just keep building on what works until you have a very sort of clear group on who you need to be talking to.
Like your persona.
From the very brand to the start right through to the end.
And Helen mentioned earlier the B2B Institute. There's a great piece of research on category entry points. I think it was done right here in Australia with Jenny Romaniuk.
Yeah.
But so for depending on the industry of your client, there's different category entry points that are going to appeal most to the key buyers. And we often find, another great, we love a mental model at LinkedIn, but another great one in B2B is this idea of the 95-5 rule, which means that only 5% of B2B buyers for your product are in the market at any given time. Makes sense given the kind of decisions we're talking about. So you might change your HR platform once every 5 years or your, IT provider, whatever that might be. But most of our sales and marketing in B2B tends to be pointed at that 5%. And a lot of, appealing, making sure that like your brand or your client's brand is on that day one shortlist is all about creating surround sound in that other 95% of the time. And we want to make that easy through LinkedIn. It's just about having a voice throughout 95% of the time so that when the 5% comes, you're already in their minds, and then you can go hard with your sales team, your case studies, your, sales navigator outreach or whatever that might be.
Thank you.
What Jenny was chatting about was like dipping your toe in with the thought leadership piece, because we know that's really resonating on the platform at the moment. You don't need to put loads of money behind that. You can start organically. You can start by seeing what works, what's resonating, building out those like audiences around that you can see are being attracted to it. And then you can boost it into different audiences that you see. Actually, nobody from procurement's looked at this. Okay, well, why don't we just do this or try that? So you can start small.
Short form video, low barrier to entry right now.
Because you mentioned organic, the one thing I struggle with as an indie agency is it better to post as me, the person, the director, or as the business? Because me, the person, has 25 years of connections.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not that long on LinkedIn, but people I've known over the whole span of my career versus posting something on our business. So what difference does it make? Does it matter?
It does.
Organically, and what's the answer?
Got to do both. It's the good news and the bad news. So the reach of, and also you need to think about who else is working at the agency and the power of their voices all added together. So it's really important for your agency brand to have a presence or your client's brand to have a presence, because that's where people will go and it'll be the #1 search result on Google. Maybe for your business will be your, it can be often your LinkedIn page. So making sure that that's well populated, but posts that you make as a leader of that agency or owner of the agency will get sometimes up to 12% the reach of company page posts. So people often say, my company page posts, we're posting all the time, we're not getting very much distribution. It's the leaders that will have the followers.
Yeah.
It's your connections that will amplify. So by all means, you can post from your page and then cross-post it to your network. What's your name? Eleni. So people want to know what Eleni has to say about a trend in the industry or a win that the agency has had. So unfortunately, you have to do both, but by doing both and also by making sure all of your employees are playing a role in that, it will really boost visibility overall. But people over companies tends to be the rule of thumb on LinkedIn.
C-suite tend to get 6 times the engagement.
6 times.
6 times the engagement.
Didn't know that.
Because I've been going post on one, share on the other, or share on one, like I'm just mixing it up.
Yes, you have to try. You have
You're
to
right.
try.
The ones
Yeah.
I post from my name, but I've only got a couple of hundred on the business. That's why.
Sam,
Sam Buchanan, IMAA.
Sam, nice to meet you.
Would you like what we do? It's our own selfish question, but would you recommend we post from the IMAA and then I would share that and put my thoughts on top of it? Is that a better way to kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone, or?
Ideally, you will be doing, so now I've just said you have to do both. Ideally, you'll be doing 3 things, Sam, but you should be monitoring them. IMAA should be posting for sure, because your members are all signed up and want to hear from you. You should be cross-posting those things, but also, and I know you do this already because I follow your posts, you should be doing your original posts. Because again, there's that thing, like I was saying to Eleni, the organization's perspective, you boosting and giving your take on the news from the organization, and then fewer of these because they're harder work to make your own videos or to write your own posts with your original take. A combination of all 3 where you're then mentioning back is going to be the sweet spot.
The good news is we got a workshop coming up on that.
Not a workshop, right? I'm going to be there. It's hard to say that there's one way that works for everybody, and always be looking into your post insights, because sometimes the likes and engagements. I did an experiment a couple of weeks ago where I made a video every day on LinkedIn, and like took me months to work up the courage to like point the camera at my own face. But instantly I could see like the impressions were so much higher than my recent written posts, some of them on the same level, but engagement wise people weren't like necessarily hitting like, because they didn't want to encourage me maybe to make any more, but I could see they were like, there was engagement, there were impressions. And so always go in and have a look at the insights that we're able to give you.
Thank you. We've got a question online. Paul is asking, what's the recommended starting budget for thought leadership campaign to reach sufficient audience penetration? For example, take target market in the medical industry. So it's not a same answer for every industry. I would say there's a great tool on Campaign Manager, is that when you start pulling your audience, you're going to have an idea of the reach you are getting with this audience. And that's really when we'd be able to give you a bit more insight of is your budget. And the platform will give you budget recommendation. So you have an idea. It's not a straight answer to that. I think it's a case by case and depending on your target audience. And think target audience and hidden committee, right? We talked about that. So you can reach out to me, Jenny Wagner. I'm the agency lead for Australia and New Zealand. So if you've got any question for any clients, I'm able to connect you with our sales team. We'll be able to support you for some of your clients.
I would just say, Paul, a general rule for us that we use just with the field sales team is around 15K a month or 25K a quarter is where you will begin to see things move. Much less than that, and it makes it hard to actually see good results. But if you don't have that kind of budget, that's fine. What I said earlier is thinking about the organic piece and just like learning from the platform. Use us, we'll give you insights for that audience that you have or that market that you want to penetrate. We'll give you the things that might be good to talk about, and you can just get started and see how you go. There's a whole suite of tools on there that Catherine mentioned that you can actually see who's looking at it, who's engaging, what's not working, or even where the wide space analysis could be for you to actually start a different conversation within that will get you a bit more engagement. So you can start small, that's totally fine. But from a paid point of view, we would say roughly around that sort of 15K to start for that time.
Right. Thanks, everyone. So